works, but not
Hmm.
the specifics of like the cultures.
Oh yeah, no. Like that's a lot of that stuff. I mean, we're not necessarily gonna have to work about it. We are heard, but we are not seen.
Hello, friends.
I don't know who all is here. I don't know if we're actually streaming, but Lord help me.
We
Um,
are
yeah, there
streaming.
we go.
We're up. We're in it. Wartime. You are so right.
But yeah, no, I have some old school notes. Um,
Wonderful, wonderful.
because I imagine a lot of folks are probably going to be um, familiar with the previous edition because the old One Ring 1E was really
Mhm.
popular, like really popular.
So you
Um,
got that.
yeah. This the 2E is very similar to the previous edition, but it's got some
Awesome.
subtle changes that I like. Um,
I am loving it.
yeah.
I've had a great time learning through it.
This is one of those times where it's that that level of everybody's like, we like the gritty. Like, cool, you want gritty? Let's remove magic and see how long you last. We'll see how
Woo!
much you like gritty then.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Because there's magic in the One Ring, but
Mhm.
the wizards have it. And how many wizards are in the world of Tolkien?
I missed my thumb. Don't worry about it.
Right? So, like, there's
Yeah.
magical items and shit like that, which is neat. But, like, actual, like, spell slinging wizards and junk like that, super rare. Um,
Yeah.
but it's what it is. Uh, but yeah,
It
no.
is an LMA,
It,
not a
it,
game session.
it is an LMA. Why? What does it say?
It should say Loremaster's Arcanum the One Ring.
Does it not?
Was there a bio thing that wasn't changed to something
Oh,
maybe?
yeah, because again, I'm not logged in.
Ah, is that something that I can do?
No, you can't do it.
Ah, dang.
No, you can't. I had to be logged in, but then I remembered that you could change the title. Then I was like, oh, okay. Then Rachel changed the title. I forgot about the going live thing. That's
Gosh darn
my
it.
fault.
It's okay. We get it
My
next
fault.
time.
Yeah.
Sorry to disappoint, but you get to listen to our lovely voices and soon see our lovely faces along with it,
Yeah.
talking about the One Ring.
Yes.
2E, second edition.
Yes. Um.
Yes, Clay.
This is you know what though, the thing that I love about this is that game that I've never actually gotten to play, like the 2E version, right?
Mhm.
But I desperately want to play it. Um, uh,
It's free to me.
I did. Well, I mean, it's less about the free league and it's more about. Well, I mean, we'll go over it tonight, but like some of the
Yeah, yeah,
mechanics
yeah,
and
yeah.
some of the systems that are in it, um, make me absolutely love it. Plus, I have never really gotten a chance to go, you know, plot around in Middle Earth. I got to play
Yeah.
the 1E version of the One Ring, once at a con in a single, like a one shot thing. But I never got to play it again because all of my friends, they were all like, "No, I want to play regular Dungeons and Dragons," and I'm like, "Okay, cool," or whatever, right? But
Oh,
yeah,
twice says grand total of four. Gandalf and Radagast are the forces of good. Saruman and Sauron are the forces of evil, plus the two blue wizards, but they're often ruined doing who knows what. Interesting.
mm-hmm.
The more you But
Mm-hmm.
hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying hello. I'm loving
Hello,
this. Everyone's just
hello,
saying
everybody.
hi. Thanks for
Hi.
being here, folks.
Welcome here. We're gonna give it another 60 seconds or so, and then we will go over. We will have this lovely intro video, and then
Yes,
from
yes,
there we
yes.
will roll on over into tonight's stream. And I am very excited to be talking
I'm
about it.
so freaking excited.
I am so excited. There is
I
so
got
much
a
to do in
good
it.
Google document
You got a good
of
Google.
a good.
You have the good Google Docs. I have a legal pad and a pen. So there we go, friends.
Got it all covered.
Talking about the fucking age gap, like right there. So it's all good.
Well, here's the thing. I take notes on little
Little sticky
um
pads, little sticky
stick
note, sticky
pads, sticky
pads.
notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is this? Okay, there we go. That can come off. All right.
Yeah.
All right,
Use my
friends.
pencil, or I could use my pen.
Here
Who
we
knows?
go. We're gonna go watch this great intro movie in three, two, one. Here we go, friends.
I don't know what to say. I don't think I do it this way. It might have been because you put notes. Who knows? I don't know what first.
Enemy spotted. I have foreseen your
Hi, everybody. Hello. Hello. Welcome to tonight's Loremaster Arcanum. I'm still trying to get it. It's long days. Wednesdays are long days. Hi, everybody. Welcome on in to Loremaster's Arcanum. I think I figured out the technical issue from last week, so
Hopefully.
hopefully that won't be a problem this week. But unfortunately, what that means is that all of your questions have to be directed at Rachel, because I think what the problem was the fact that I am actively streaming to the channel, but in order for me to see the chat, because for whatever reason it didn't want to load up in my OBS for me to view it, I kept the window open. So it was putting too much pressure on my RAM and stuff like that or whatnot for the purpose of streaming. So in theory, hopefully, if everything goes well, we shouldn't have any interruptions tonight while we talk about the One Ring. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all again.
You.
Thank you all for hanging out with us. Again, apologies for missing last night's Greyhawk, but some things were a little unavoidable at that particular time. But we will be back next Tuesday, definitely, for more Greyhawk.
And it's
We will,
gonna be good.
it's gonna be good. We'll talk more about that towards the end of tonight's show. But thank you again, everybody, for joining us. And tonight, friends, we are going to talk about the thing, the place, the world that I know for many, not all, but many, spurned our love of fantasy and brought us into the world of elves, dwarves, and men, of swords and orcs, of arrows, and great and powerful wizards.
And hobbits.
And hobbits. Little hobbits.
Little
Halflings.
hobbits.
Hobbits. Halflings. Shire folk.
Mm-hmm.
That being the world of Middle Earth and J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. This setting has had a gamification many times over. But it is definitely, that setting itself is one of the core influences on things of like why we have Dungeons and Dragons, why we have role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder and everything in between, why we have those fantasy high adventure type games or whatnot about bringing a group of people together for common causes to try and stop a great evil that is plaguing the lands, with all the little bells and whistles that come into play with it. And as you'll see, the artwork for today is your average group right then and there. Your human, your elf, your dwarf, and your hobbit or your halfling. The hobbits. You can't just say hobbit. You know what I'm saying?
No.
They have to be the hobbits.
The hobbits.
The hobbits. But diving into the One Ring. The One Ring, friends. The One Ring, a role-playing game in the world of the Lord of the Rings, based on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. So, what is the Lord of the Rings? Now, I've heard. This is, for those of you who remember, there was a company called Crucible 7, who had the One Ring before this. Their height of when they had their game running was when the Lord of the Rings movies were first coming out. Before that, they had Middle Earth Adventuring System, I believe is what it was called. The Middle Earth Adventure System, or something along those lines. That was out in the 90s. And that had a solid, good run that it went through, and it was very well received at the time. But then when the movies came out, when we got our first taste of the Fellowship of the Ring, everybody wanted to go back to Middle Earth, like in earnest. And so,
As they should.
And so Crucible 7 made the One Ring system. Since then, it had a wonderful long lifespan, but of course, IPs change and change hands and whatnot, and Free League decided to take a crack at it, creating the One Ring 2E, second edition. This is not a standalone. This is very much it is a standalone, but it is not a whole new system. They took the mechanics and rules of the ones that Crucible 7 had made, and they polished them up. They took a bunch of their errata, fixed it, added a little bit of their own flavor to it, and most importantly, the thing that I personally love was I had a burning question about this game, and I know it will matter to some, not necessarily all, but it will matter to some. Is that the One Ring is all approved by the Tolkien estate, so they have to swear off on it in order for it to go into print. And that is one of the things that I think is really kind of neat, because it means that they have to go through that level of fact checking. They have to pour over all of the lost tales. They have to pour over all of the notes. They have to dive into the Silmarillion. They have to look at things. They have to look at the stuff that Tolkien's son Chris did. They have to factor all of that in when they write in it, so you truly do get that solid, good, authentic feel of what it is to travel around in this world
Middle Earth.
Of Middle Earth, and I like that. I appreciate that. Now, for those of you who are joining us, I'm gonna do one thing. We are not talking about Middle Earth Adventures. We are not talking about the 5e port for that Free League has done. The reason for this being is that one of the things that I was talking to some folks about when it comes to the development of the 5e version and whatnot, and the One Ring, right? The 5e version the Middle Earth Adventures is very much designed around just being that. You take pre-generated characters and you run them through classic or known types of battles, known types of situations, and you just kind of see how you do with it, right? However, for those of you who understand this reference, when it comes to the One Ring, right? The One Ring is a love letter to Middle Earth. That is its goal. That is the sole purpose of it, right? Those were not my words. Those were a guy from Free League that I spoke to at a con, and I asked him. I said, "Can you describe the difference between 5e and the One Ring?" And he said that basically the 5e version is. They're meant to be ran as modules. There's not a lot of free reign in them. I mean, there is, but there isn't, and that's up to the DMs. But the One Ring is a love letter to Middle Earth. It is for all of those who pored over the Silmarillion, who pored over the Lost Tales, who do their once a year reading of The Hobbit, and their once a year, their once every other year reading of The Lord of the Rings, who have just lived and breathed these tales, who at this point are probably just as scholarly and elvish as they are in English for what it is. Um, but yeah, no, this is what it's about. This really is one of the things that it's about, and I absolutely love it. Now, now that I've done gushing over this for the last 15 minutes, because I
As
really
you
do.
should.
Well, again, this is the game that I've always wanted to play and never gotten to play. Whether it be people just aren't interested in learning a new system, or it's too gritty, or in some cases not gritty enough, though I don't understand that one. There is some very cool facts about this version that I love that I cannot wait to dive into. Now, before I jump into it, right, Rachel, you
Hi.
have you have you have been poring over this as well, right? What
Yes.
is your initial impression of the One Ring?
I think it is really freaking neat. I think it is just a very, very cool system. I hadn't seen one that's like it in its use of. So it uses D12s and D6s. And D12 is like the standard dice, it's your base die. And the D6s are used to kind of show skill within whatever you're rolling for, whatever attribute you're rolling for. So you'll always roll a d12 and you'll add some d6s to that. And normally the target number that you're trying to hit is between like 14 and 18.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would roll your d12, add the d6s, and if you roll a 6 on the d6s, that makes the success more impactful than if you just meet it without them. And I'd never really seen a system do that
Mm-hmm.
before. And to be fair, I don't know a ton of systems.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the ones that I know are the ones that we've talked about here.
Yeah.
Um, but I just thought that that was really neat.
Mm-hmm.
And I also love the attributes, which are strength, heart, and wits.
Yes.
And I just love heart being an attribute. That just does something for me.
Well, don't worry, we're gonna dive into that a bit, friends.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it's ultimately it's really neat that you don't have a whole lot of systems, bongling around inside your brain, because you don't. It's not so much that you don't have enough to compare it to, but I think one of the cool factors about it is that it allows you to take it for what it's worth. You're not constantly trying to compare it to something else, right?
Yeah.
Which is
It for
refreshing.
sure is gritty, but I personally do love a little grit.
I no, I mean I do too. I enjoy a degree of grit. I really do. I just don't like a insurmountable amount of it, because we play these games to be heroes, not to
Yeah.
essentially get our teeth kicked in left and right all the time like we do every day in our lives. So
Absolutely.
give me my escapism, right?
Please.
All right, so friends, first and foremost, the One Ring. For all of our Tolkien fans, and for those of you who maybe just watch the movies, that's okay.
That's okay.
When does the One Ring take place? Well,
It takes place. When or where?
when?
Between the events of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings?
That is correct. For our friends at home, here we go. The year is 2965 of the Third Age.
Yeah.
The game is set and the age of twilight is upon us. The game itself is meant to take place during the time frame of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, like from the start of The Hobbit all the way up to the end of The Lord of the Rings. The idea is that you are a group of adventurers that have come together to form a company. That is the premise of the game.
A fellowship.
Hang on. Hang on. We'll get there.
I'm not getting. It's not an adventuring party. It is a fellowship.
It is a company, technically. The
Mm.
company forms a fellowship, madam.
Okay. I'll let you keep going then.
All right. So the idea is that you are a group, right? You are a group of individual adventurers who have been brought together for a common cause, whatever it may be. Generally, that's where your patron will come in, and we'll get into that. However, over the Misty Mountains, right, between the Misty Mountains and the sea, is where the bulk of this setting and these games take place, right? In Eridor. It is an old, desolate land full of ruins, lost artifacts, and treasures beyond all compare. It is kind of a rundown area of Middle Earth, a area of where time has forgotten. But it is good. It is still fun and it's amazing. And there's all this stuff you can do. The big reason for that is because a lot of the area that's there has a lot of really deep rooted history, but also some sparse population. Now, which allows a little more flexibility for you being able to create adventures and tell tales here, because we're not running historical documents and stuff like that to be able to play these games, right? So it gives you a little bit more flexibility in what
Like
you're
a wiggle
doing.
room.
Now, granted, can you play anywhere else? Sure, you can play a game in the Riddermark. You can play a game in the Shire, right? As a matter of fact, one of the first things it says is it recommends that all games begin in the city of Bree. Why? Because it's centrally located in Middle Earth, and it gives the players all something to ground themselves in and go out and move out from there. Do you wish to go into the mines of Moria and attempt to fight the Balrog off again and, and send it down into its tomb, or clear out the goblin hordes for Balin and his company and whatnot before the Fellowship themselves arrive? Do it, right? You can. However, if you wish to write your own story and your own interactions and tell your own tale, right? You take your group and you go into east or west of the Misty Mountains and tell a whole new tale in Anor, however you say it. I can't ever get it right.
One or the other.
In the lost realm of Anor, right? In Eridor, and the lost kingdom of Anor in the country of Eridor. There we go. Bah, I could talk.
Words are hard.
Words are hard. So the whole thing is it takes place during that 80 years time frame, right? So shadows are growing, orcs are marching, goblins are coming, right? The shadow grows, right? The Witch Kings begin to awaken, right? Magic is dying. Magic is leaving the land. The elves have officially started their they're leaving the land and leaving the land to the realms of men. So you have all of those factors that are coming in, that are tying in, right? And so it's neat. It's really, really cool. Right now, as far as the game suggests, is that Bilbo has found the ring, right? Bilbo has found the ring, and it is lying in wait within the Shire, right? That's all. That's as far as the One Ring itself goes, right? It's lying in wait. It's lying in wait. It's waiting for its time, but its presence is still felt and known, and its will is still being exacted, for lack of a better term.
I thought it was a great term. Exacted. That's a great term.
Adventuring in the Third Age. So this is the part where where you start to get into the how do we play the game, right?
Oh,
this
boy.
is the fun part. Okay.
This is the bread and butter of it all.
Okay, so one of the things that is absolutely truly unique about this game is everybody picks a lineage, right? Whether it be you're a dwarf, you're a hobbit, you're a human, but humans have a lot of little different things, right? Are you a human of Gondor? Are you a bardling? Are you from Bree? Are you from where you're from? You're nobody's just a human, if that makes sense. Just like nobody's just an elf. Nobody's just a dwarf, depending upon, if you come from the Lonely Mountain, or if you come from Erebor, or if you come from the Misty Mountains, those things help change and mold your character for what it is, because we don't really roll for stats. Everybody has kind of
Yeah.
a starting loadout depending upon where they're from, and we'll get into
So
that.
yeah, I think they're called heroic cultures, which is
Yes.
it's basically races.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me a lot of this is where the slight bit of compare and contrast that I can do of like Monster of the Week and how they have their individual play sets.
Yep.
Where you can like choose the attributes that you want to be in whatever order you want them to be in.
Correct.
Like they have like a little table that if you want to roll, you can to see whether you have anywhere from I think 4 to 7, depending on where you're from. Well, it could get as low as 2, depending on the stat. But like, it's really neat. But yeah, first of all, take a moment to appreciate the art that is within this book.
Oh, God,
it is
yes.
absolutely incredible, and I'm glad you have it pulled up right now. But yeah.
So the art, I cannot do it justice when it comes to this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not telling you how to spend your money, friends. But even if you never play these games, the art that is within these books is phenomenal. It is truly phenomenal.
Upon opening just to the front page, it is just hits you in the face with like exactly how the adventure should feel.
Mm-hmm. It really does.
Little people.
And this is not a review show. This is not a review show.
I know.
This
I'm
is
sorry.
Just me
it's great though.
Me geeking out. Like the paper. I'm just talking about the paper in the book. The paper in these. Hang on a sec. I gotta get mine. Hang on. Just a second. Like. Wait.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll entertain you guys. I'll talk a bit about the heroic cultures that are available. So, but he's back. So JK.
Now, granted, my book, right, is the special edition cover, right? Mine is the special edition cover. I have a regular edition cover over there, and I guarantee you, side by side, they are exactly outside of the covers, right? They're the same quality, right? Now, the part that I love, the paper that's in here, the paper that they use, right? It's not like your D&D book paper. It's not that glossy feel with the slight slick. This shit feels like parchment as you turn it, right? It is heavy, grained paper that you are going through. Like this feels...
It's a tome.
It is a tome. Yes, exactly that. Sorry, I had to put that up like...
Little diverge. Completely understandable.
Yeah.
BPG Gaming says, so Kurt, you're giving away your copy?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not, because they don't make this one in the red. You can still buy ones in black, but the red they don't make anymore. That was a Kickstarter only thing. All right.
But to get us back on track.
Sorry.
Bardings, which I'm just going to kind of go through the list of things that you could potentially choose as your heroic culture. There are bardings. There are dwarves of Durin's folk.
Hang on. We can get to that. There's artwork and
all that.
The adventurers. Heroic cultures. So, barding. Like the bardings. Those are the, like you were saying, right? They are the dragon slayers. They are the people of Dale, right? You went on and you said the dwarves of Durin folk.
Yes.
Right? They're the dwarves of Durin folk, right? We all love us some dwarves.
Love us some dwarves. Got the elves of Lindon.
The elves of Lindon, yep.
Lindon, I know how to say things. The hobbits of Shire.
The hobbits of the Shire. Hobbits.
Which we all know and love. The men of Bree.
The men of Bree.
Rangers of the North.
My personal favorite, the Rangers of the North, yes.
And that's all for the heroic cultures.
So there are several other heroic cultures. These are our core book ones. We're kind of focusing on that aspect. But there are the elves of the Mirkwood. There are the dwarves of Erebor. There are... there are the Iron Hill dwarves. There are all of those, right? they're just in
So many to choose
they're
from.
just in the other supplements that are out for this.
Then you have the callings, which are how I would equate them to like classes, but they're smaller and with like a bit of a different purpose.
Yes. So that is one thing that I definitely like. Like, you're hitting on all the things that I was going to hit on.
We're tag teaming it.
I know, right? Yes, callings, right? So the cool thing that I like about the calling is that depending upon the calling that you have, right? Every single one of the different lineages, right, can be any one of the callings, right? They truly can. But the different callings confer different things. So when you create, a lot of times in like Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot, right, we often create our characters in isolation and then bring them together and find a way to make them, right? The fellowship of this game begins at character creation. You are meant to create characters together. And the reason you are meant to create characters together is because the more cohesive your fellowship is, right, the better you will be to face the challenges outside and in the wilds, right? So,
which is a big important part.
Yes, it is a big important part, right? So knowing those things, right, helps you guys fill your roles. And that's not to say one role is more important than another, right? But what it does do is it allows you to make certain choices about your characters and about each other that will play into the larger game itself. But yes, no, sorry. Rachel, please go on. Talk to us about callings.
You pretty much hit on what I wanted to hit on. There are 6 of them. There is, at least within this playbook. Book. There is Captain, Champion, Messenger, Scholar, Treasure Hunter, and Warden, and each of them get their own specific skills that they favor. This is something that I did really enjoy about this system as well. So, as I already said, there are 3 attributes. There's Strength, Heart, and Wit. And under each of them, I believe there are 6 skills associated to those attributes. And I believe your attributes themselves can scale anywhere between 2 to 10.
I believe so, yes.
2 to 8. It's one of those 2 numbers. And for each of those attributes, there is a personal target that you are trying to hit. And it's different for each character, which I really, really like. And you always know what number you're trying to hit for what attribute, because it is the attribute number subtracted by 20. So if you have a 7 in a skill, you are looking at a much lower target number than if you have a 2 in this skill.
Yeah.
And for the favored skills that callings can give you, there is a little box next to it that you can check, and that means you get to roll an additional d12 with it. You essentially get advantage if you roll 2d12 and you take whatever the highest is, which is great. Because if you're especially good at this skill, you're already rolling upwards to like 2 or 3 extra d6.
Yep.
So it just gives you're just good at the skill, and that's great. I love to see it.
Yep. You are just good.
Yeah. But then you also get additional features, which, for example, the captain's is you have leadership, which you possess the ability to direct others to action when under pressure. Other people normally turn to you for guidance. And how this is used, if you look at the character sheet, I believe it's on like the top left section, you get to put your additional features there. And if you in game are role-playing to those additional features, you get to add an extra d6 to the role that you are making that is kind of referencing that. And I love that because it encourages roleplay, which for some games, like, oh, you're showing it. Yes, wonderful. Yeah, it should be at the top on one of those sections, but thank you, because I like the dancing fingers. Oh, I totally forgot what I was saying, but I love it. It's great. It's just a very interesting way to do things. Because within TTRPGs, sometimes it's hard to cultivate people to roleplay more. Because you can have like the stats and abilities, but like trying to bring that character to life can be difficult for some people. So it just gives a little more incentive, which we all know humans love to have.
So, um, one of the things about each of the callings that is very unique and very interesting to this game that I find that I find not hilarious but is amazing is everybody has an additional distinctive feature, which is something that is very unique to each and every person. And I'm bringing up the scholar as like an example of one, which is kind of neat in my like your scholar's your person who knows everything. Who your scholars, if you're gonna have anybody who can do magic, it's probably gonna be the scholar. Let's just be real. But they have an additional distinctive feature, right? Like using this one as an example. And no, it may not make any sense to you, but you guys might get an idea because with every distinctive feature comes a shadow path. This is the inherent weakness of the character in that calling. This is the shadow trying to work at you, trying to turn you, trying to, it's that whole nobody is without flaw or weakness, right? The shadow path is that weakness taking hold. So it says, rhymes of lore are short verses created by many cultures to help them remember significant phases of ancient history, or correction, significant facts from ancient history which might otherwise be lost. Scholars of Middle Earth credit much of their ancient knowledge to such rhymes. However, shadow path, lure of sequence. Inquisitiveness and curiosity are desirable virtues in an individual, but knowledge can be put to malicious use, and learned individuals can look down on others as ignorant fools. Secrets are dangerous, and they vary as they vary desire of uncovering them from many corrupt a heart. So sometimes learning too much can in turn cause bad things to happen. As a prime example, a great example of that, right, of this is Saruman, right? He used the eye. He used the seeing stone. He learned too much. He saw too much, and it slowly began to corrupt
Thank you
his
for
heart.
the raid, Fate of the Dice.
Welcome on in, Fate of the Dice. Thank you very much for the raid. We are talking about the One Ring system here tonight on Loremaster's Arcanum, where we kind of do deep dives on various subjects and related to TTRPGs as a whole. We kind of put a lot more emphasis on fantasy and whatnot, but tonight we are talking about the One Ring system and Middle Earth, which is something near and dear to many of our hearts. But back to what I was saying.
Yes.
But that is a prime example of a scholar becoming corrupted by learning too much, by knowing too many things. It's that there is I don't want to say ignorance is bliss, right? But there is something to say that too much knowledge can destroy the will of the heart, because believing in something can hold more power than knowing something in some cases. And sometimes knowing the cold truth can diminish the hope that you have in your heart. So,
yeah,
kind of interesting play on things.
Truer words have never been spoken. But you had mentioned virtue when you were reading something, and I'm going to use that as a segue to talk about valor and wisdom, which is something that is also on the character sheet that each character adventurer gets. And it is accumulated, but at the very beginning, each person has one valor and one wisdom. Valor gives you an initial reward, which are like, for example, like Legolas's bow. Like you get some kind of like really interesting and neat item to start off with. And wisdom grants you a virtue, which will give you a benefit within the game. One of them that I really like, which we'll talk about hope in a bit, but it's called confidence, which raises your hope by 2. And it's just like a fun little addition you get. And once again, if you play to it within your character, that'll give you an extra D6 on stuff. So use it. um, oh, I was gonna go somewhere with that, and then it just completely.
It happens. It's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay.
Was there anything about that that you found interesting?
I mean, I find it interesting because it's your moral compass and it's your moral fiber. Instead of
Mm.
having alignments in this game, you have your virtues and you have your
Your
virtue,
shadows.
your various virtues, and your valor. Because you're heroes and you're meant to be heroes. This, I guess, that's one thing I should almost preface, right? Is it's okay to be a hero that may question themselves, question those around them, have doubts, or doubt themselves. But this is not a game where, how do I put it, moral ambiguity, yeah, moral
There it
ambiguity
is.
exists, right? There is no, like, a bunch of shades of gray kind of thing or whatnot. No, you're meant to be heroes and do heroic things, because if this is built on the, if good men do nothing, evil will triumph and prevail, right? So that's the whole point behind it, and I don't necessarily just mean men, to clarify. um, uh,
Yes.
but that's the whole idea behind it. So the idea of this game is very much built around truly discovering yourself as you go along, but never do things in a selfish nature, because that's how the shadow wins. That's how Sauron wins, right? Because his selfishness, his desire for power, is what caused so much to happen, right? Um, moving on. Sorry.
Yes.
The company. This is the cool part of one of the things that I love about this game. Right.
Yeah.
So, you all meet in a tavern. No. So, this game is interesting. One of the hardest parts about all adventuring games, right, is how do we know each other, right? Well, this game fixes it, and I personally love it. One of the things about a company, right, is your company comes together. The group agrees on a company patron, right? That's the cool thing, right? The patron is who initially brings you together, right? Much like Gandalf brought Oakenshield and his company to Bilbo, right? He brought them together. He was their patron, right? So, and like that, that's how this works or in Lord of the Rings, right? Okay. Um. Uh. The
Names.
Fellowship. The Fellowship is
Ah,
brought together, in Rivendell, right? And so their patron, right? Their patron being, wow, turn in my nerd card. I cannot remember the character's name. Oh my god, fucking brain damage is kicking in hard. I cannot remember his name to save my life. Can't.
Chat's
Somebody,
got it. Chat'll get us.
somebody.
Elrond.
Elrond,
Elrond. Elrond.
Elrond. Thank you,
Elrond. Yeah. Thank
Elrond.
you. Very
Oh
good.
my god.
And Bogey.
Here. Hang on. I'm getting out my nerd card to just hand over
Are you just
now.
gonna? Is it
Just
being revoked?
it's just being revoked because, like, I just, here you go. There you go. Sorry. Um,
Thanks.
I could not remember. My brain did not want to fire on those synapses to save. It's like it was struggling. Elrond brought together the Fellowship, right? So that would be an example of a patron, right? What they do is they bring the characters together because they all think they think that, they're the ones who are key to this task. They're essentially your quest giver, or at least your initial one, right? Or your big story arc giver, right? You'll pick up other little quests and things along those lines to do along the way, but ultimately they're your person who sets you out, right? Who sets you on the path you're about to go on, right? Those patrons can have awesome bonuses that can be conferred depending upon who the patron is and the types of quests and agenda, right, that they are on. Some of the examples is Balin, right? We all love us dwarves, the Balin, right? The son of Feudin. His favored callings are champions and captains, right? He'll grant a +1 to your fellowship points. Fellowship points come in as a later thing, right? And he grants additional advantages as well as his agenda, right? The agendas that each patron have help dictate what kind of story you're about to tell, what you're going to do. Using Balin, Balin's agenda is to reclaim lost strongholds and eliminate enemy lieutenants, right? So what that means is lots of dwarven holds were lost to goblins and orcs and whatnot over time, right? So he could set you on quests to retake lost dwarven holds, right? Lost dwarven. I don't think he'd probably send you to take a city because that's a bit much, but but things of that line, and taking out lieutenants, taking out those in command, those in charge of these orc war bands, and or these goblin or war bands and whatnot, right? That is another cool thing that he does, that he grants bonuses to.
Yeah, your patron can be Gandalf the Grey.
Yeah.
And he will send you on an agenda to warn the free peoples and inspire them to action, which is just sick.
Yep. So next, after you have your company and you choose your patron, you choose your safe haven. Now, your safe haven does not come into play except at 2 times, right? Where you start and during the fellowship phase of the game, which we'll get into, which is my personal favorite part of the game. So, don't get me wrong, adventure is great, but the fellowship mechanic is something that is truly, in my opinion, the greatest thing that if I could take it into all other games, I 100% would. We'll get to that.
Hell yeah. You can talk about the fellowship, I'll talk about combat.
Yeah, okay. You can talk about combat. But as a prime example, it's Bilbo's, as an example, it's Bilbo's home. It's the place that they set out from and return to. Or it could be the Prancing Pony, where you're first all drawn together and then go out from there and then come back. Or it's Rivendell, if you're the Fellowship. It's where you all initially came together and then you come back, right? When your adventures are in between adventures, or when your adventures are done.